Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what actually happens inside your body when you eat 4 eggs every single day? Most people haven't, and I'll be honest, I didn't ask that question for most of my adult life either. I just grabbed whatever was fast, whatever was easy, and told myself I was fine. I wasn't fine. But what I eventually learned about eggs, specifically what they do inside your body when you eat them consistently, genuinely surprised me. And I'm the kind of man who doesn't surprise easily. Because here's the truth. Despite everything you've been told about cholesterol, despite decades of food fear and bad information, eggs are one of the most complete, most practical, and most misunderstood foods you can put in your body, especially after 60. So today I want to walk you through what 4 eggs a day actually do inside your body, step by step, and why your energy, your metabolism, your brain, your eyesight, and even your hormone balance can shift more than you'd expect. Stay with me, because the last few benefits are the ones almost nobody ever talks about. And if any part of this catches you off guard, tell me in the comments. I'd genuinely like to know what surprised you. Let's get into it. Before we talk about what eggs actually do for you, we have to deal with the one thing that's kept a lot of men in my position away from them for years. The question I used to hear all the time: won't eating eggs every day drive my cholesterol through the roof? Here's what I learned the hard way after years of believing the wrong thing. No. The answer is no. And the honest truth is, it never did. That entire fear was built on research from the 1960s that was weak to begin with, and was later taken apart by decades of better science. The original studies were flawed, the conclusions were overstated, and somehow the fear stuck around long after the evidence collapsed. Here's what the real science has consistently shown. Your liver produces the vast majority of your cholesterol on its own. It doesn't primarily come from what you eat. So when you eat eggs consistently, here's what tends to happen inside your body. Your liver naturally adjusts and produces less cholesterol to compensate. Your HDL, the good cholesterol, often goes up. Your LDL particles tend to become larger and less dangerous, and your triglyceride levels frequently improve. The critical point is this: eggs do not produce the small, dense LDL particles that are actually linked to cardiovascular risk. If anything, they tend to push your cholesterol profile in a healthier direction. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a cardiologist. I'll say that clearly. What I am is a 64-year-old man who came into his late 50s with borderline blood pressure and early insulin resistance markers that scared me into paying closer attention to everything I was putting in my body. And eggs turned out to be one of the things I'd been avoiding for the wrong reasons. If you're tracking your numbers, and you should be getting annual checkups, this is worth a real conversation with your doctor. But don't let a myth from 60 years ago make that decision for you. Now, let's talk about protein. And I'm going to make this as simple as I can. Most of the protein sources you already know: chicken breast, a steak, a piece of fish, those all come from muscle tissue. Their biological purpose was movement. That means their protein structures are dense, tightly packed, and harder for your body to fully break down and use. An egg is different. It wasn't built for movement. It was built to be the complete starter kit for a living organism. Everything required to grow a new life from a single cell. Every building block, every essential nutrient, nothing missing. That fundamental difference is why egg protein has the highest biological value of any natural whole food. Biological value is a simple concept. It answers one question: how much of the protein you eat can your body actually absorb and put to work? The numbers tell the story clearly. Beef protein, roughly 75 to 80% usable. Fish, around 80 to 85. Chicken, roughly 79%. Egg protein, a perfect 100%. Nothing is wasted. Every gram goes to work. Why does this matter for a man in his 60s? Because after 60, your body's ability to synthesize muscle protein starts declining. That's not a theory. It's called anabolic resistance, and it means your body becomes less efficient at using the protein you eat. So the quality of your protein source matters more than it did when you were 35. Egg protein supports faster muscle repair and recovery. It helps maintain bone tissue, tendons, and ligaments. It fuels hormone and enzyme production, which matters more than most men realize. It supports efficient skin repair and a strong immune response. I spent 37 years in construction and field operations, hard physical work for decades. I assumed that was enough to keep me solid. It wasn't. By my late 50s, I was heavier than I'd ever been, stiff in places I hadn't expected, winded faster than I should have been. When I finally committed to eating enough high-quality protein, and eggs became a daily anchor of that, the difference in how I recovered and how I felt day to day was something I hadn't expected to notice that quickly, but I did. If you've been feeling slow to recover, weaker than you used to be, or like your body just doesn't bounce back the way it once did, protein quality is one of the first things worth examining. Now here's something that surprises most people. Eggs aren't just a protein source. They're also a unique fuel source, and the yolk is where that story lives. When you eat lean meat, your body can typically use only about 10 to 20% of the protein itself as an energy source. It's slow and inefficient on the fuel side. But eggs contain fat from the yolk, and that changes the equation significantly. About 65% of an egg can be used as fuel. That means more stable energy through the day, less of that mid-morning crash, better focus, more consistent blood sugar, less of that feeling where you've eaten but you're somehow still unsatisfied an hour later. This is also one of the main reasons people who swap out cereal or toast for eggs in the morning feel full for 4 to 6 hours instead of 1. I made that switch myself a few years back. Protein-centered breakfast, eggs, turkey sausage, some fruit, and my mornings stopped feeling like I was running on fumes by 9 a.m. If you're managing your weight or trying to eat less without feeling deprived, eggs do something most other foods don't. They keep you satisfied long enough to make better choices for the rest of the day. Let's shift to something that's genuinely underappreciated, the egg white. Most people think of the white as the healthy part and the yolk as the problem. That framing has it almost completely backwards. But the egg white does have something interesting going on that's worth understanding. Inside the egg white are antimicrobial proteins, proteins that naturally destroy bacteria, including harmful ones. The reason for this isn't complicated once you understand what an egg is. Before a chick develops, that egg has to survive in the environment on its own. It has to protect itself. So egg whites contain enzymes that break down bacterial cell walls, proteins that block bacteria from stealing nutrients, and molecules that bind iron so that pathogens can't access it. There's a myth you may have heard. Raw egg whites cause a biotin deficiency. Here's the truth on that. If you were consuming a massive quantity of raw egg whites every day, you could theoretically run into a problem. But cooking the egg white destroys the compound responsible for that issue. As long as your eggs are cooked, you have nothing to worry about. Now, and this is one of the most important points for any man who's serious about staying strong as he gets older, I want to talk about leucine. That's a specific amino acid, and it matters more than most people understand. Leucine isn't just a building block. It acts like a master switch, the signal that tells your body to start repairing and building muscle. Think of it like the trigger that initiates the whole process. Without adequate leucine, your body may not get the signal to do the repair work even if you've eaten plenty of protein overall. Eggs are loaded with leucine, more than most common foods. I'm 64. I started strength training consistently at 59 after my wake-up call the year before. I'm not competing with anyone. I'm not chasing some version of how I looked at 40. What I'm doing is practical. I'm trying to keep the muscle I have, stay mobile, stay capable, and not become the man my father became in his early 70s. He got frail earlier than any of us expected. He lost his independence. That image stayed with me. My brother Daniel, he's 67, lives up in Knoxville, developed type 2 diabetes, put on a lot of weight, and his mobility took a serious hit in his 60s. I watched that happen close up. It made the stakes feel real and personal in a way that no article or doctor's advice ever quite did. Leucine from eggs, combined with consistent strength training and daily walking, is part of why I've been able to hold on to meaningful muscle through my early 60s. Not maximum muscle, not impressive for a magazine muscle, useful, functional, capable muscle. That's what I'm after. That's what matters. If you're exercising regularly, walking consistently, or you're over 40 and starting to notice that your body doesn't bounce back like it used to, eggs give you that consistent leucine signal your body needs to support muscle retention, faster recovery, sustained strength, and long-term mobility. Here is something I don't hear enough people talk about. Eggs are one of the best natural sources of three nutrients that work together in a way that affects your brain, your energy, and your overall function more than most people realize. Those three nutrients are choline, natural B12, and folate. And together they support a process in your body called methylation. I'll keep this simple because that's what actually works. Think of methylation as your body's maintenance crew, the team responsible for repairing DNA, clearing out toxins and excess hormones, and producing the brain chemicals that keep you focused, stable, and functional. When that process is running well, you feel it. When it's sluggish or inefficient, you feel that too, in ways that are easy to write off as just getting older. Slow methylation can show up as brain fog, trouble concentrating, low energy that doesn't seem to have an obvious cause, increased inflammation, and even sluggish liver function. What's not widely known is that up to 40% of adults have a genetic variation that makes methylation less efficient. Most of them have no idea. They just feel off and can't explain why. Eggs provide the raw materials this process needs, and they provide them in a form your body can actually use. This is one of the real reasons people notice a shift. Clearer thinking, sharper memory, more stable mood when they start eating eggs consistently. Your body isn't just processing food, it's getting a very specific set of biological tools. I can't tell you with any medical authority what your methylation looks like, but I can tell you that for a 64-year-old man who spent decades eating poorly and ignoring his health, adding eggs consistently was one of the simplest, most affordable shifts I made, and the effect on my mental clarity and energy was noticeable enough that I paid attention. Now let's talk about your eyes, because this one surprised me. Inside the yolk, in that golden center most people were told to throw away, are two of the most powerful antioxidants for eye health that exist in any food: lutein and zeaxanthin. These compounds accumulate directly in your retina, the tissue at the back of your eye that functions like a camera sensor, converting light into signals your brain can read. Lutein and zeaxanthin act as a natural internal filter, protecting your retinal cells from damage caused by UV light, the blue light from screens, and the general wear that comes with time. If you're spending hours in front of a screen, if you work outside, if you drive in bright conditions, you're asking your eyes to do real work every single day. And as we get older, that cumulative exposure adds up. Eating eggs consistently is one of the most practical and affordable ways to reinforce those retinal defenses over time. There's an additional benefit that tends to surprise people. These same nutrients also improve vision in low light. A lot of people who start eating eggs regularly report sharper night vision. It's a real and direct change, not a theory. I've been driving the same roads in Franklin for 16 years. I'm not going to pretend I ran a clinical study on my own night vision, but I will tell you that when I started treating my nutrition seriously, my eyes felt less strained. That might be part of the reason. Let's talk about your brain for a moment. Your brain is made of fragile membranes that depend on specific types of fat to stay sharp and functional. Those fats are called phospholipids, and egg yolks are dense with them. This is part of how eggs support memory and learning, sharpen focus, help stabilize mood, and protect cognitive function over time. Your brain doesn't perform well when it's starved of the raw materials it's built from. Giving it those materials through food is one of the most straightforward things you can do. You'll hear people talk about supplements and protocols for brain health. Some of that's worth paying attention to, but eggs have been doing the foundational work long before any of that conversation started. There's something straightforward about feeding your body what it's actually made of. Here's one more layer that most people don't know about. Eggs are a surprisingly strong source of vitamins that are consistently underestimated. Vitamin K2, this is the nutrient responsible for directing calcium into your bones and away from your arteries. Most people have no idea this distinction matters, but it does significantly as we age. Bone density and cardiovascular health are both affected by whether calcium ends up where it belongs. Retinol, this is the true bioavailable form of vitamin A, not beta-carotene, which your body has to convert and often doesn't do efficiently. Retinol directly supports immune function and skin health in a form your body can immediately use. Vitamin D. Most people already know this one matters for bones. What's less talked about is vitamin D's role in regulating hormone production and stabilizing mood. A lot of men in their 60s are walking around with low vitamin D levels and connecting the dots to things like low energy or mood fluctuations. Eggs are a natural source. The common perception of eggs as just a protein food dramatically underestimates what you're actually getting. Now, since we're talking about eating eggs consistently and getting real value from them, it's worth taking a few minutes to talk about which eggs you should actually be buying. The labels can be confusing. Here's a simple breakdown. Conventional caged eggs, not ideal. The hens live in very confined conditions, which affects their stress levels and can affect the nutritional profile of what they produce. If you can do better, do better. Cage-free. An improvement, but don't picture open fields. These barns can still be quite crowded. It's a step in the right direction, but not a dramatic one. Pasture raised. This is your best option. The hens have more space, access to outdoor environments, a more natural diet. That shows up in the eggs. Better fat profile, more nutritional value, a richer yolk. If you can consistently find and afford pasture-raised eggs, that's the standard worth aiming for. Organic. Good, but important to understand what it actually means. Organic refers to the hen's feed, not their living conditions. An organic hen isn't necessarily living in better conditions. Organic certification doesn't guarantee cage-free. Don't let the label substitute for reading what you're actually buying. The ideal combination is pasture-raised and organic. You get a better environment and certified organic feed. That's the target. But here's what I want to say plainly, because I've watched a lot of people let perfect become the enemy of good. If pasture-raised is out of your budget, eat the conventional ones. Even a standard egg from the grocery store is far more nutritious than most packaged breakfast foods, cereals, granola bars, or whatever else is usually sitting in that morning decision window. Don't skip eggs because you can't afford the premium option. The premium option is worth pursuing when it's practical, but a regular egg is still a strong choice. Now that you know which eggs to buy, let's talk briefly about what to eat with them, because the right combinations genuinely change how much you absorb. Pair eggs with dark leafy greens. The healthy fats in the yolk improve the absorption of antioxidants from greens by a substantial margin. Arugula works well, but any bitter or dark leafy green does the job. Add some onions. They contain sulfur compounds that support your liver's detox pathways, which matters more than most people think. Season with black pepper consistently. This isn't just a flavor preference. The piperine in black pepper measurably improves your body's ability to absorb beneficial compounds from the yolk itself. Simple habit, real payoff. Tomatoes are worth adding. They provide lycopene, which supports heart health, prostate health, and eye health. Cooking the tomatoes, as in a scramble, makes the lycopene even more bioavailable. For stable, lasting energy, add avocado. More healthy fat, more fiber, longer satiety. This combination holds you well into the late morning. For cooking, use olive oil or butter. Both enhance flavor and nutrient absorption without breaking down at the medium heat you're using for eggs. Avoid the highly processed vegetable oils where you can. None of this has to be complicated. Eggs, a little protein alongside them, some vegetables, some simple seasoning. That's a morning that works. I'll say this plainly. Start your morning with protein, real protein, instead of whatever processed carbohydrate is easiest to grab, and the rest of the day tends to follow better. I've experienced that personally. It's not a theory. If eggs fit your budget and your body handles them well, and for most people they do, eating up to 4 a day is one of the simplest, most affordable, most practical ways to support your muscles, your brain, your hormones, your eyes, and your overall health. Especially after 60, when the cost of nutritional neglect starts showing up in ways you can no longer ignore. I'm speaking from experience on that one. I spent most of my adult life doing hard physical work and assuming that was enough. It wasn't. My body told me clearly at 58 that it wasn't. And one of the first real shifts I made was getting serious about what I was actually fueling myself with. Eggs became a daily habit, not because I read about some optimization protocol, because they were affordable, practical, easy to cook, and the results I felt over time were real. Now that you understand what eggs actually do inside your body, the next conversation worth having is about what happens when you pair them with another everyday food. Because while eggs are powerful on their own, combining them with milk changes what happens in your bones, your hormones, and your metabolism in ways that are worth understanding. So don't miss that one. What happens when you drink milk every day? I'll see you there.